Hi, this is Cities Timelines and I'm Dean Webb. In this episode of Rebuilding Cities, we want to take a look at the riverfront. Riverfronts and waterfronts are vital for the transportation of goods in and out of a city. This is where the lifeblood of the city flows. The transportation facilities and the distribution facilities that are available in ports are vital for the industry and commerce of the city and surrounding areas. The nation does not function if its industry and commerce cannot work one with another, and waterways are the most important means of transportation of goods. And that's why they were prime targets in war. Once they were destroyed, the military could not use them and the civilians could not use them, and the cities that depended on them ground to a halt. When they were severed from their communications, people had to flee the cities in order to find food elsewhere, and the cities, deserted, were not able to themselves support populations that were trying to return after the war. The city of Köln in Germany lost 95% of its population once the bridges and infrastructure were destroyed on the waterfront. The people weren't dead, they just left to try to find food and shelter elsewhere, and when the war ended, they came back and found there was nothing. That's why this shot here of Frankfurt illustrates very well the challenges in rebuilding a city. The bridges have to be restored so that way communications from one half of the city to the other are able to go back. The waterfront has to be rebuilt, not with parks and recreation, but with industry, with commerce, with storage facilities. That is vital for the lifeblood of the city. When we look at Hurricane Katrina and its impact, Bay St. Louis here in Louisiana again shows that destroyed bridge and the destroyed waterfront. Those things have to come back for the food and energy to return to this city. This is Barataria, Louisiana after Hurricane Ida. Basic services are completely offline as we see this fire engine going across a river on a pontoon. That river's not supposed to be there. That's from the disaster. We have got to get things restored to the way they used to be. When we talk about this, take a look at this coal barge, and that shows just how important the rivers are. This is not a train, this is a barge moving the coal, and that is one of the most important sources of energy, particularly in the time period we're looking at, and it's one of the most important sources of energy today. I know we want to have a lot of green energy, but the coal barges need to arrive at the ports until we are 100% green. We also depend a lot on gas and oil, and refineries are frequently in coastal areas that receive tremendous damage from hurricanes and other disasters. They have to come back online for the lifeblood of the nation to flow again, and the lifeblood is oil. When we look at the prices of oil spiking, it's usually due to a natural disaster taking these plants and facilities offline or halting the flow of oil and gas to and from them. Getting the commercial and industrial port facilities back online after a disaster are vital not only for the city's recovery, but for the nation's economy as a whole. So, looking at the game that we have loaded here, we see great evidence of destruction. I went ahead and added a lot more rubble to the area, as well as some burned out looking spots. We've added in the additional rubble mounds that we have on the edge of town. They are really bad looking, and if we get to the top of them, we see that they really do tower over the rest of the terrain. We need a lot of rebuilding. As far as the rubble in the rest of town, it'll clear up once we put buildings on it, don't worry. But I still want it to look like, we couldn't get all of it. We just got most of it. All right, well, the waterfront, right. Let's take a look at our industrial connections. We've got the roads and the rails. We've got a rail coming in off of this side and a road coming in here. We've got another major road coming in over here. No rails, but they kind of congregate here. This may be a place to put some industry. We scroll over here and we see a rail coming in here, another rail and a highway. They meet right around here, so that means this general area is another strong candidate for an industrial zone. All of them have access to the river. This is absolutely where we want to have our industrial zones facing, because this river is going to allow for the rapid transit of goods. All right. If we put in a area for industry, I don't want it sticking out into the river. I don't want to use this waterfront as just the only way to connect to the river. I want to actually dig in and build out a port facility. So that would mean keeping the game on pause, deleting the props and the roads, then using terrain modification, such as we have here, to dig in to this area and hollow it out so the water comes in and we have a port facility. Once the water settles, then we can start putting quays around it, adding concrete, adding industrial warehouses and containers and such. That'll all be cool. The other thing that I'll do is I will add in all of the secondary processing buildings for the various industries. I don't think I want to have any ore, oil, farm, or forest on this map. I want all the production to be done off map, and I want everything imported to this one. Conceivably, I could have 4 different cargo areas set to handle the different goods coming in, and with that, I will build out the industrial zones. I can use the transfer controller here. Let's bring that up. This would allow me to select buildings and say that they only work with that particular area. So I could say a cargo terminal only goes with a particular production area, and that the items in that production area will only work with that cargo terminal. So that's one way we could force the game to actually utilize the things that I place down. So it won't try to ship everything to one cargo terminal and then drive it across town. The boats for the ore industry will come into the ore one. The boats for the oil one will come in over here, and so forth. Again, this is not a time for any kind of pedestrian walkway or park or anything like that. This is a time to get the coal, the food, the oil, the wood coming into town and getting turned into something useful. So let's go ahead and come back to that in just a wee tiny bit. When rebuilding the riverfront, it stands to reason that the industry in the city had organic growth, with industries coming into place in proximity to other industries with similar demands. If we're rebuilding, then that means planning out what was once there and how it might have made sense to order it all. Now, there are 16 unique buildings in the industry's DLC. I can use their resource requirements to plan out my industry allocation. I can target production areas to be closest to the industries they work with. For example, plastic is the most used resource in all but 4 factories. I need plastic production almost everywhere. Flour is the least used, once for the farm products only bakery, and then again only with the food factory. Both of these make good sense to group together. So I'll put them in Zone 1 up here. Now, petroleum products are never used with glass, flour, animal, or plain wood products. That means the factories that use petroleum are good to group near metal, crop, and paper facilities. Since we'll also have plastic production near that group, the printing press will be good to add in next to the soft paper factory and sneaker factory, with paper and crop facilities nearby. Add a touch of metal production, and we can add in the refinery and household plastics factory. That will be Zone 4. Now, plain wood is another resource that we can concentrate in one area, as it's only needed for the furniture factory, toy factory, modular house, and ship factories. The first 2 need paper as well, and the last 2 need metal and glass, so we can have an ore processing area near the plain wood location. In fact, the modular house and shipyard both require identical goods. It's natural to keep them next to each other, so they go in Zone 2. 2 more factories that are close matches on goods that are required are the electronics and car factories. Both metal, glass, and plastics are needed by them. The car factory also needs animal products. it makes sense to group them together, and we can also put the steel plant there because it's cool next to the car factory. So it's going to be zone 3 for them. This also looks like a good zone to put in the coal power plants, again for aesthetic purposes. That leaves 3 factories to go: lemonade, printing press, and clothing. Clothing is crops, animal, and plastic, so it makes sense to place it near the bakery and food factory. Lemonade uses glass and crops, so it can go near an area already making glass. I'll put it on the other side of the electronics factory in zone 3. The printing press is paper and plastic, which I'm bringing to 3 of the major groupings. But since the other 3 already have 4 factories, I'll put it in zone 1. So that way we'll have 4 in that group. Now that I know where to put the factories, I can assign production and storage buildings to each zone. If we take a look again at the requirements here, we can see that in zone 1, where the farm needs are highest, I'll need 2 flour mills, 2 slaughterhouses, some grain silos, a pulp mill, a naphtha cracker, and a petroleum plant to produce all these things here. You can see in this image that I've got some other notes on the side. I'll post a link to the entire image so you can follow along at home. But that's what we'll need in zone 1. Now, zone 2, if we zoom in over here, that is going to need mostly the forestry goods there. So I can assign them production and I can assign them 2 engineered wood plants, a pulp mill, naphtha cracker, petrochemical plant, a rotary kiln, and a fiberglass plant, and that'll take care of the zone 2 needs. Zone 3 has the focus on ore. So in zone 3 we're going to put in a slaughterhouse and a silo along with a naphtha cracker, and that's all the additional industry we need to go with the 2 rotary kilns, a fiberglass plant, and a glass manufacturing plant. Zone 4 is where the petroleum is made, so we need 2 waste oil refining plants there and a pair of naphtha crackers, 1 ore grinding mill for our metal, a pulp mill for the paper, and some silos for those crops. Now, out of all these, what I can do in each zone is put a industry zone for each area. And when I lay in the industry zones, I don't have to make them contiguous. Well, I do it first, but then afterward I can just clear out the area in between, and that way I can have a single industrial zone straddle multiple areas where that industry will be. So once I have those all in place, I can then have the appropriate support buildings placed in an expanded zone area. But I want to make sure that I keep the aesthetics. So the support buildings for the forestry are probably not going to make it to this map. They look too woodsy. But the other ones are fairly industrial looking, so I can put them in by each zone and improve the efficiency of their appropriate industries. So yes, the industrial zones are going to be split out 3 or 4 areas across the map, but the actual zones that I have here, if we look back at this, these zones are what I'm going to use to help guide my transfer controller mod settings, and these will force the goods that are built in this area to stay in this area to support the industries in this area. Some export will be allowed, but the demands of the local industry will take priority. So that's my plan for rebuilding the industry in this area. I've already gone on a lot in this video, so I'll either do the actual rebuilding in another video, or you'll just see it all done the next time. I don't know yet. I have to make up my mind on that. But thank you so much to those who commented in previous videos. Thank you for your suggestions and your priorities. I really appreciate that, and we're going to work with that going forward. And you could probably look at this map and guess where those arterial roads are going to go. Even if they weren't there already, rebuilding the city definitely calls for those highways to join up just behind the industrial areas. It's going to go through the heart of the town. So be ready for that. And the other teaser I have to make is, where are all the people going to live when we want to fill up these jobs? The answer to that, we need to build a lot of housing really quickly near those industrial areas because we don't yet have bus or tram service. So I hope you've enjoyed this video about rebuilding the riverfront. We're going to do more with this later. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have ideas about more organization for this city and other ideas about what needs to be done to get it back on its feet, please make them in the comments below and we'll use them as we build it out. I'm Dean Webb, and this is Cities Timelines. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you can use this as you build out your own cities in City Skylines. Thanks for watching.